A lot of you that follow me on various social platforms know that I am huge on photography. In fact, it's one of my biggest passions outside of sports and aviation. But the biggest question that comes with posting so many pictures is, what camera are you taking that with? So today on YouTube, I'm here to answer that as well as some of my favorite lenses. So first off, this video is not going to be all about the specs. I'm not going to give you details and numbers on cameras or lenses because there's enough of that out there already on the internet. I'm just here to pass along my recommendations. This is the Canon 5D Mark IV. Let me tell you a couple things I like about it. First would be the pixel count. This thing is going to give you great detail in all of the photos you take, especially nowadays with 4K and Retina screens. I mean, every minute detail is great with this full-frame sensor. You're going to see things you couldn't even see with your own eyes. Speaking of that, high dynamic range on this camera is very high. It does so well in situations where there's both sun and shade. The sun won't be blown out and the shade won't be so dark it doesn't appear in your photo. Last thing I want to point out is this camera has 2 card slots. It takes a CF card as well as an SD card, so you can duplicate your photos on multiple cards just in case one goes bad. You've already got 2 copies instantly the moment you take your photos. So yeah, the Canon 5D Mark IV, this is not the top-of-the-line camera body that professionals use. That would be the 1DX Mark II, but the Canon 5D Mark IV, for your amateur use, for your home use, for your hobby use, this is about as good as it's going to get as far as the Canon line goes. All right, let's get into some of the lenses. This is Canon's 100mm macro f2.8L. Yes, the L with the red ring does indicate that this thing is pretty costly, but this one is actually their least expensive one in the line. The macro part here, I think, throws some people off because they think it's all about the close, tight shots, the flowers, the bugs. Yes, you can do all that. You can do macro photography, but you can also use this 100mm lens just like you would maybe an 85 portrait lens. It just has the ability to focus quite close. You don't have to use it for that purpose. And I've got to say, with the aperture opening up all the way to 2.8, you can get some great depth of field. You can use this in a lot of low light situations. So this 100mm macro by Canon, the f2.8L IS, by the way, it has image stabilization. This is definitely one of my favorites. So this is the 50mm f1.2L lens from Canon. What does the 1.2 aperture mean? You can get some pretty sick depth of field shots. The word bokeh is thrown around a ton. In fact, here on YouTube, there's tons of video about bokeh. Just search it, B-O-K-E-H. That's what this lens will give to you. The 50mm length is nice because it's not too wide. It's not too much of a telephoto lens. You get a lot of mid-range shots, a lot of medium-range shots on this lens. But you can get that depth of field where the background is blurred. I mean, you can pretty much blur anything. Also, this lens helpful and valuable in low light situations, obviously opening up to 1.2. Yeah, this is a heavy lens. There's a lot of glass on this thing. Look at the reflection right now. The f1.2 50mm from Canon, definitely one of my favorites. The artsy shots. You can get all the artsy shots with this bad boy. All right, let's get to this whopper. This is the 70-200 f2.8L Mark II lens from Canon. 70-200 is a very common focal length for professional photographers. 70 on the wide end is a nice place to start. It's a pretty versatile lens, right? You can get away with 70 in a lot of tight situations still, but the ability to take this thing all the way out to 200 is excellent as well. Even when you're out at 200 millimeters, everything is tack sharp through this lens. This thing is super heavy. I should warn you, by the way. Tough to carry this bad boy around on your camera for a full day of shooting, but the images it comes back with, you will not regret those. Last but not least, let me end it with the 16-35 f4L lens from Canon. I love this wide lens, this wide zoom lens, because you can get in so many tight spaces, especially if you have a full frame camera like the 5D Mark IV. I also have a fisheye lens, but this one even more favorite to me because it goes without all the distortion. It still gets me all the way wide to 16 millimeters. 35 on the far end. You could fake that if you really needed to shoot something further away. 35 will get you respectably close enough. So this is a versatile one. Again, you have to think in mind of where you're shooting, what you're shooting. But if you want wide, if you want the ultra wide zoom, 16 to 35, the f4L from Canon, definitely recommend it for your bag. So yeah, that's the camera I use. Those are some of the lenses I use. Maybe another video I'll do more. But as for right now, if you have any questions or comments, put those down below. I'll get back to them in time. Also, thanks for coming here to my YouTube channel. I hope you'll consider subscribing, maybe giving this video a thumbs up, and also checking out some of the other great content I have for you here on YouTube.